My name is Nicole Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us for this What's Up with the Suicide Lanes panel discussion. And this discussion, we are encouraging you to chat, drop your questions and comments in the chat. It is a recorded webinar, so once we do upload it to YouTube, that can be viewed later, but for this event, I have no governor. So if you know my temperament on the suicide lanes, I'm not holding back. But without any further delay, I'm going to introduce our panelists today. Mark Howard, he's an AZ native, which is very rare, 25-year small business owner in Phoenix, a former owner of Fez Restaurant and Bar, which I was there on the opening day where it opened in Midtown originally, and Bliss Rebar, and current owner of the Royale Retail Complex and Royale Kitchen plus Cocktails. And that's located off of 7th Avenue. If you have not been there, I highly recommend it. And Mark did host Urban Phoenix Project a couple of years ago for a panel discussion on the suicide lanes with a special guest City Nerd. So thank you, Mark. And our other panelist is Pam Pawlowski. Pam is a 25-year Melrose resident, community builder, and change advocate who lives near 7th Avenue. And Stacey Champion, who many of you know, is the owner of Champion PR and Consulting. She's a longtime Phoenix community advocate and a former resident who relocated to Southern California for quality of life. I should also mention Stacey has lived adjacent to 7th Avenue and 7th Street, and so have I. I currently live right next to 7th Street and for a number of years by 7th Avenue. So we're all very well vested and versed on the issues of the suicide lanes. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. I did ask for folks earlier, if you're just now coming in or you haven't heard, for the icebreaker, share your name in the chat, where you live and your personal experience with the suicide lanes, 7th Ave and 7th Street. So really quick, a brief history about suicide lanes. I assume many of you do know what they are. And in Phoenix, we've had the 7th Ave suicide lane since the late 70s, and then the 7th Street suicide lanes since the early 1980s. And initially, they were an alternative until to move downtown business traffic to north affluent suburbia Phoenix. And an interesting thing that many people don't know is that majority of city council back then in the late 70s and early 80s actually lived in North Phoenix because we didn't have council districts at the time. It was an at-large city council. So the majority lived in North Phoenix. So as you can imagine, this was a natural push for those council members to designate 7th Ave and 7th Street as essentially highways. And the reason being often was that we didn't have a freeway taking folks up north. Eventually, we did get the SR 51, but still we have the 7th Ave and 7th Street suicide lanes. And real quick, one last thing I'll mention before we kick it off to our panelists is that even if you were to pull up old archives from the 1970s and 80s, you will see that at that time, the Streets Department actually advised against adding additional suicide lanes to 7th Street after the issues that 7th Ave was experiencing. And the rhetoric from council is the same as we often hear, even last year at the city council meeting on whether to get rid of them or not, is to add more police and tell drivers just to drive better. Thinking that we could possibly be perfect with all the distractions of what goes on in the suicide lanes. Anyways, so we still have the same issues today as we did back then from city leadership. And we're hoping to, with a study that Annalise will drop into the chat here soon. It's a link if you haven't provided feedback, public feedback on this study that the City of Phoenix is going to kick off on the suicide lanes. Please do, because this will help amplify your voice and also memorialize your concerns into a study that we hope will be completed somewhere, I believe, by the end of this year, if not by early next year. So Mark, I wanted to go ahead and kick it off to you. Being a business owner there on 7th Ave, and also formerly you're a business owner on Central, so you kind of know the differences too between those having businesses on both streets. How does traffic along 7th Ave affect your operations? And I also want to throw in there too, do you think if we change our reverse lane signs from the static painted signs to digital signs, that will help bring business or customers into your business?
No, it won't. That won't. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I am probably the least knowledgeable, but very vocal about these compared to Stacey and Pamela. But I've also lived off of 7th Avenue, and I currently live off of 7th Street. I've lived off of 7th Avenue for 15 years as well as having businesses off both of those. So I've been a resident as well as a business owner, and I've never seen more impact than the last 3 years being a business off of 7th Avenue, especially right at the curve, which is probably one of the most dangerous sections of 7th Avenue that exists. Um, these are highways. I call them 7th Avenue Highway, 7th Street Highway. They were made to be highways. They continue to be highways. And as we all know, highways are high speed areas. They are only for high speed to get you from one place to another, usually long distances away, so uptown to downtown. They are not for you to stop along the way and enjoy refreshments and visit neighbors and access businesses. They're meant for you to go through them, passing by all of those things, and that's why I call them highways. They're incredibly dangerous. And my biggest concern about them is not just the safety, it's the fact that the city of Phoenix only looks at it from a traffic flow perspective. They completely disregard everything else about it, about the success and economic viability of businesses, the economic impact on residences, the livability of being in those neighborhoods, walkability, safety, connections with each other. They throw all that out the door. And as you said, Nicole, on the last meeting I was on, which was a transportation committee meeting, it literally said the response was, well, drivers need to be more safe and need to be more aware. And we all know that doesn't happen. And
Right.
if that were to happen, why do we have cement barriers down the middle of our freeways? I mean, we have them there because accidents happen and people travel at high speeds. They have great impact on the operations of our businesses. We see far less traffic at our businesses. It's been quite the struggle, a big struggle getting people to get into our businesses because
Mhm.
people don't want to travel the sevens, let alone turn on them or access businesses at all hours. This has nothing to do with the reverse lane hours. This is all hours of the day.
Mhm.
People don't use those streets because they look for the path of least resistance, and sevens are not the path of least resistance, so people get away from them completely. And so therefore they don't patronize those businesses like they could if you were along other streets like 16th Street, 19th Avenue, even 15th Avenue, even Central is the same thing. The high speed of traffic, the flow of traffic, it's the worst part of it. We virtually cannot get people to travel across the street who live on 8th Avenue to come over to 6th Drive to the Royale
Right.
because they don't want to. I don't care how many signs you have, how many flashing lights, how many hawk lights you have. We have the most hawk lights in the city in that 1 mile stretch. It doesn't make a difference. It isn't about people reading signs. It isn't about trying to understand them. I
Mhm.
mean, it's about feeling safe. It's about connecting. It's about making sure that I don't want to. You wouldn't walk along, Highway 51. You wouldn't walk
Yeah.
along, the I-17. And we've done the same thing for those things as well. Um, yeah.
You said something about like the path of least resistance, and that made me think about so Pam, having been a long time resident in the Melrose area, I when Mark was talking about that path of least resistance, you as a community leader for a long time in the various areas of Melrose, what have you seen with, I'm assuming you see cut through traffic as a result of the reverse lanes, suicide lanes. What else, Pam, would you like to share?
Well, just from a personal perspective, from living there for 25 years and in Woodley Melrose and also up in Grandview, which is between 7th Avenue and 15th Avenue, Camelback, the Indian School, of course. And in my role as a leader in the neighborhood association, it gave me access as well to many other neighborhoods and their leadership and what their opinions were, what their experiences were. So I Melrose becomes just a microcosm of all of 7th Avenue, and I'm going to lay that on 7th Street as well, that all neighborhoods are experiencing these things, all businesses are experiencing these things. I think part of our struggle has been able to get people involved completely in this. I started in 2008, where I formally voiced my objection to the reverse lanes by joining a group that was started by Teresa Dickinson. And I think Stacey was involved at that time. And so this is not just, a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 8 years ago. This is 18 damn years ago, just for me. So, I don't really want to hear any of the bullshit anymore at all. None of it. And to have a study that does not include economic development, that does not include residential quality of life, is so short-sighted. There's no vision there. I mean, I have lived in Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, here. I've traveled many cities in Europe. I've traveled many cities in Canada, Ireland, studied their streets every time. Just got back from Detroit last year. And guess what? Their people mover, their buses, their light rail are all free. And people move around there, they bike, everybody walks, and everything coexists beautifully. But when I moved into that neighborhood, and I'm so excited with all these quaint little houses, but I couldn't get across the street. I couldn't go to Harley's and eat unless I wanted to walk a half a mile north or a half a mile south across the street and go eat. Then thank God Tom Simplot came in and, as Mark said, put one hawk light in. Now we have 5 hawk lights and 3 other lights. So it didn't change the behavior of the drivers. The only thing it changed was my behavior, where I was actually able to get across the street and develop community, because then I was able to walk over there, walk in those neighborhoods, meet people, talk with them. I could shop, I could eat. I mean, this is the smallest thing, so bizarre. But what I couldn't do was, in the morning, I couldn't take my grandkids to school. I could not turn, because I couldn't go down and turn left into their school. So I had to go over to 15th Avenue, go up north, go down Central so I could make a right-hand turn. And this is not once a week. This is what people do 5 days a week, 5 hours a day. They are inconvenienced greatly. So it impacts not just time. Now it impacts gas. And I got to say, what it reveals to me is a class system that exists in the city of Phoenix. It reveals it, it enforces it, and it says there are some people who are more important than others, which we know when it began, as you revealed, Nicole, that was it. That was true. Here's the important people in government. By God, we got to get them down there. The other perplexing thing to me is you have 3 lanes that go downtown in the morning when, it's so important for you to begin work. But boy, by God, we have 4 lanes so you could speed home, buddy. Isn't that great? Just last week, we have 2 buildings in Melrose out through cars. And everybody wants to say, oh, well, you know what? That was at 5:50. That wasn't during the reverse lane time. Just like Mark said, it's all the time. It is exacerbated by the reverse lanes. It has established a pattern. It has established a habit. And, there's basically, besides the inconvenience, it's the speed of the drivers, but who cares, right? There's no
Yeah.
enforcement. They know
Yeah.
that. They've been trained to know that. And so, they have the upper hand and they take it.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Three things I think have to happen. One is policy change to remove them. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you do it a mile at a time. I don't care how you do it, but they need to be gone. And really tired of leadership that is like mamby-pamby, does not want to be a leader and say yes or no, just keep saying, let's have another study and let's have it be biased, and let's have it not include quality of life. Let's just say all Phoenix is about is moving cars as quickly as we can from one place to another. There's a value for you. This is what Phoenix stands for. It's not about people, and I'm sorry, but cities are about communities, and communities are about people. And, I'm not impressed. The other thing is there's no enforcement. So we have to have enforcement there. I don't care if it's by a machine, by a camera, I don't care what it is. But this is how you shift a culture. This is how you change behavior. Is it shitty in the beginning? Hell yeah. Are people pissed?
Mhm.
Hell yeah. But is there a different way of life after that? Yes. I
Yeah.
can name you 5 cities that I've been in the last year that have gone through road diets. So they're getting rid of their side lanes and they're repurposing them and they're taking the speed limits down. Oh man, many editorials, right? I'm so mad about this, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? Kids get to do more things and be more safe. Older people get to do more things, be more safe. They
Yeah.
can ride, public transportation. They can walk places. And isn't that what we want to do, is to be inclusive of everyone instead of just people who just got to plow downtown? And you won't convince me either that there are that many people that work downtown anymore. All of our city leaders, they don't live north. They live in Chandler and they live in Gilbert,
Mhm.
where it's cheaper to live. So they don't have a need anymore.
Many may not even know, when you said just another study, the study that's currently being done right now is at least $1 million, is what we're paying for. And Stacey Champion, I'm gonna pass it off to you now. I mean, you initiated the citizen petition. I believe that was April or early May 2025. And as a result of your citizen petition to get rid of the suicide lanes, we have this study here where we know that council could have easily voted to get rid of them. Also, you did a phenomenal public records request, and there was minimal opposition. And I'll let you explain it, Stacey. And everything and anything any of you guys want to say at this point too, feel free. But you have the floor, so open mic to you.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, I kind of slightly have PTSD. Just even like listening to everyone because so yeah, I lived in Phoenix for almost 20 years, in Arizona for almost 28, uh, and worked on these issues literally the entire time I was there. I mean, my daughter is now an adult. It and let's just be honest about who could have avoided this new unnecessary study. It is Councilwoman Laura Pastor. And she is, in my opinion, especially on this issue, absolutely worthless. If she wants to become mayor or get elected to some other thing, I think she is high, honestly. She had the opportunity when we brought this force council. I had set up a a website and the petition. We had, I mean, so many signatures. We had over 50 businesses. We packed the council chambers. There wasn't, I don't think, anybody there in opposition. My public records request showed that there were, a few people who mainly lived in Moon Valley who were like, no, I love the suicide lanes. Everybody else was like, no, this is terrible. They need to go. They've needed to go. Quite honestly, it was a big part of my tipping point of getting the hell out of there. One, because my kids were finally grown and I could, but after so many years of feeling like I was just beating my head against a brick wall and being older, like I wanted to have quality of life and live somewhere where I could walk and bike while I still can. Like my knees already sometimes hurt. I'm like, screw this. Like I'm gonna go live somewhere where I can walk and bike while I'm still physically capable of doing those things because I don't think that the current leadership at the city of Phoenix, minus maybe and most definitely Anna Hernandez, like they suck. They don't give a shit about people. They don't. Um, I still get public records requests for the pedestrian and cyclist deaths, and it is outrageous to me. Like we had to battle for complete streets, which aren't properly implemented. Melrose neighborhood would have been, and I mean, this is like, oh my gosh, I think my daughter was probably 5 when I started bringing up the idea of doing, a complete streets pilot project in Melrose. I mean,
Yeah.
perfect place to try that and show that it is not only doable, but will make all of those businesses and neighborhoods blossom. So
Mhm.
I just, oh my God. I mean, there's like a million things that I could say. It was a terrible more than a decade plus of shouting into a void with a lot of other really committed, dedicated people. But I mean, for me, I think like the biggest part of this is, who you elect as city leaders, because the political will is massively important, right?
Mhm.
And then holding them accountable. I mean, Nicole and I have had to do it for trees and shade. We had to do it for complete streets. We had to do it for this issue. I mean, it's like it should not and doesn't need to be that way at all. Um,
You know what's interesting too? You just brought up something, our citizen coalition that we had, the more recent one. We had a traffic engineer, right?
yeah,
And actually a couple, but one main one. And someone just put in the chat asking, wouldn't it have been cheaper or easier for the city just to have temporarily suspended the suicide lane versus doing a study?
yeah,
And I don't know if you remember what our traffic engineer said to the city, who, by the way, for those who don't know, the traffic engineer we had used to work for ADOT, and one of his specialties was on signage and traffic deviations. And he was a huge, immense help. But as Stacey knows, a lot of the information and data he shared, even on the costs of what it would have been to suspend, which would have been, I believe, under 500K. And I think it was even as low as 100K per 7th Ave, 7th Street to even temporarily suspend them. But did they listen? I mean,
no,
remember the
no,
ASU study too, the 2024 ASU
yeah,
study is
yeah.
data.
I mean, it's bonkers to me. Like it's
Yeah.
bonkers to me. So I'll hold my other thoughts for the other parts of the discussion because I have lots to say.
Well, and so when Stacey was talking about just to the audience, it's what so frustrating is each time. This is not the first time this past year that a drove of citizens have shown up to city council to say, please delete the suicide lanes. It's happened before over 10 years ago, and there was a huge public outcry on that as well. But this time, what was really interesting is that ASU, a grad student, had done a 2024 study on the utilization rates of the suicide lanes on both 7th Ave and 7th Street, where he assessed how often the suicide lane is used in the morning traffic and the evening traffic. And as a result of his study, he concluded that eliminating the suicide lanes would not have an impact on commute times. And I know that was actually brought up in a recent City of Phoenix Streets Department public webinar on this. Some folks were concerned that it could, increase time of commute, but we had a study back in 2024 stating quite the opposite. But did council want or choose to use that study?
No.
Do you remember what they said at the council meeting? Because it wasn't stamped.
It just makes my blood boil. It pisses me off. Still, it's just,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. I mean, it just pisses me off, honestly.
And then, but then we get
the blame of this literally lays at the feet of Laura Pastor. So I'm just gonna say it that is where the blame lies.
And for folks like Mark Howard and other business owners to be ignored, and not including economic assessment in this new study, which I know Stacey and I were asking for Streets to do back in 2018 in their first iteration of a bullshit study. But then, Mark, we have you and other businesses vocally, talking to our city leaders about the suicide lanes, and just curious, in your experience, how receptive have they been, or what are the excuses, or what are you hearing? Have you heard in general?
Well, not receptive. I was completely against this. I've been at those meetings. I've met one-on-one with several council members, the mayor, and it comes down to really the fact that, again, what we've all been saying, it's just not a priority. Their priority is moving traffic. So until we have leaders with a backbone, I agree that, by the way, they shut down 7th Avenue, a good portion of it, not too long ago. Last year, I believe it was, for a week. And there was no problem whatsoever during that time. People got back and forth to downtown. Oh my God, it was so easy to do. So you're right. Only about, I think it's 7 to 8% of the people who could use those lanes during those times even use those lanes. So it just doesn't make sense. And every time it's brought up, it's like, we don't want people cutting through neighborhoods. They cut through neighborhoods now, but now they cut across 4 lanes driving down these streets at 40, 50 miles an hour where kids are playing and residents live. And yet they've done great things to other streets, 3rd Avenue, 5th Avenue, 3rd Street. They reduced lanes, put in bike lanes. Central Avenue, they put in, a light rail. I had my businesses along Central Avenue. I was all in favor of all of these things, reduced lanes. And now even south of downtown on Central, they put in roundabouts, more calming measures to be able to slow traffic on Central. And again, they do it to all these other streets, but the 7s are like for some freaking reason, they don't want to touch them. They don't want to hear complaints about them. I'll tell you what, they'll hear a lot more complaints when I guess it takes a council member to have an accident. I don't know. Our business was right next to Denver's Auto and Lee's collection agency. Within a period of 2 to 3 weeks, had 2 cars crash into those buildings. Could have easily crashed into Boycott when they had a full patio of people. It's crazy how dangerous they are. And this makes a huge impact economically. People don't see that. They don't see that we have lower property values for commercial. They don't see that we have lower property values for residences. They don't see that we have costs associated with marketing and promoting more often to try to get people to come out to our spaces, because people are speeding by as opposed to enjoying the life along these streets. I just feel like every time the city was really hyped on me and my partner to develop that property. It was a bad eyesight sore, and we put millions of dollars into redeveloping that property to help to elevate the neighborhood, to help elevate the Melrose, to create what other businesses have been doing as well, Valentine and El Chulo and others who are coming in, the Melrose Brasserie, others who are coming in to try to make this an even more special place to be. The city is doing everything in their power to not support that. And that's the part that kills me. And I'm with Pam. I don't care how you do it. I have my thoughts on it. You put medians back in, you put trees, you have put turning lanes in. That alone is calming measures. Those will slow traffic. That it's proven to do that, right? As well as make it more livable and connected. And it doesn't reduce any of the lanes. That's the thing. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like we're always tired of talking about it. I've always said I'll be dead before this ever gets changed. But I really hope to God. I know all of the candidates running for District 4 are in favor of removing them. But
that's great.
It does take a collective majority to make that happen. And we don't need 2 years of study. The study's been done. We've had a 50-year study on this. We know that they don't work.
That's the best way to put it. We've had at least a 50-year study. And that time and time again, the results are the same. We're losing.
Always.
You brought up something, and I wanted to ask you guys, the panel, we're getting some comments in here about, whipping votes, that we don't have the votes from council. And this is, this year's an election cycle for the even numbered districts. So District 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 will all have races. And unfortunately not one for one of the districts. But I'm curious, with whipping votes and knowing what we saw with Councilman Tom Simplot, Pam brought up Tom Simplot, and he was the councilman before Councilwoman Laura Pastor. And Tom, we know, did champion ending the reverse lanes. And there's, pushback from various council members due to North Phoenix residents that they claimed were pushing for them, even though we didn't see that turnout this time from folks wanting to keep them from North Phoenix. I'm just curious for you guys, what is a question you would like to ask the audience for them to drop in the chat on how they feel, or what do you think should be done with the suicide lanes moving forward, or what is something I'll start with you, Mark, you would personally like to hear from folks on?
Yeah, I guess I would like to. We've heard from so many people already. We hear everyone I speak to, and maybe people don't speak to me who are in favor of them. Although I do have a couple of friends who are strongly in favor of them because they're worried that people are going to go and travel on their streets now, which is like 50th Avenue or 12th Street, and that hasn't proven to be the case even with the reduction of lanes on 3rd Avenue, 5th Avenue, 3rd Street, Central Avenue. So we're not reducing lanes by putting in medians and stuff. So I guess my question about it is we're struggling getting neighborhood people to be, patrons of the Royale, of all 7 businesses at the Royale. And a big part of that, every time I speak to people, they're like, oh, I live on the other side and I just don't feel comfortable going there. You look at Copper Star Coffee and they're packed in the morning. You look at our coffee shop and it's not packed. There's just equally as many people living on both sides of those streets. Yeah. But those that are willing and want to cross don't because of their fear. So I guess I would ask the audience, what's it going to take to get more support for those businesses? And by the way, this is not exclusive to the Royale. And it's not exclusive to just commercial, because I'm a resident as well along these horrible lanes. I live across from a daycare center that at least once a month, there's a car that it basically almost plows into the daycare center. So on 7th Street. So what's it going to take? What can you do to support it? Besides contact your congressperson, because doesn't seem to be making the difference.
Right. And to your point, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I
Stacey.
was just gonna say, I just realized like I put something in the chat, but only you guys I think can see it. But
No, I
before,
saw it too.
oh yeah, before Jeremy talked about whipping the votes, Jeremy, I just said she could have whipped the votes. I think that's bullshit. Um, if you are an effective politician, you know how to whip votes. I mean, she could have very easily when I did when we set up the petition, when I did the petition of one with the city, she could have very easily come out and used it to her advantage in the press. That would have put pressure on the other council members. And honestly, like if everyone is really serious, recall Deb Stark. Just do a recall petition. Like the council people who are standing in the way of safety and livelihood and community, recall them. Get new people. Like if people suck, get them out and get new people in. I mean, and that's I mean, and then I don't want to jump up ahead. I don't want to jump ahead of myself, so I'll leave it at that for this moment.
Yeah,
If Pam
well,
has something to say.
no, I forgot about that because that's a very real thing that people could do is a recall. And arguably it's a heavy lift, but arguably there's the numbers to do it. It's just a matter of also from the community, the willpower and the time. It is a big capacity lift, and um, it can be a memorable change to see something like that come through and to file the recall. It does put that council member on notice when they see that come through the city clerk's office. Um, you do get a certain time frame. I kind of forget all the details of it, but just for folks who are listening in, it is very doable with what Stacey said. And real quick too, Jeremy, yeah, the litigation is also another path. I know folks have explored. And Jeremy, if you don't mind, actually, so Jeremy Thacker and some other folks from the Phoenix Strong Towns group put together some data on impacts to driver safety of the suicide lanes during the hours of operations. And they created a fantastic web page of that, and I featured it in one of the UPP blogs on it. But I don't know if, Jeremy, if you wouldn't mind sharing the link to that for folks who may not know about it. I think it's a great source of information. But I mean, Stacey, okay, and Pam, both of y'all have talked about other cities and what we see in other cities.
Can I just say one thing really fast? Because this is really important too. That people can start doing right now that is going to put them on notice. Like when we're talking about litigation, start documenting literally every crash you see. Pull over safely. Don't do it while you're driving. Stating the obvious, but like pull over, take photos, take video, especially during the reverse lanes. And the more that there is a paper trail of public record, the more the lawyers who have their billboards plastered, by the way, on these streets, the personal injury lawyers, right? Like, oh my God, I do not miss those billboards, let me tell you. But they are going to start getting wise to the fact that there is a massive paper trail at the city of Phoenix that is public record that talks about how unsafe these lanes are. And people need to start actually suing the city of Phoenix when they get in accidents. You want to spook a city? Throw litigation at them. I mean, and sometimes that is the only way that we see changes is somebody has to die, somebody has to become injured. So I think for everyone, if even 20 people very seriously started documenting the shit out of every accident they see and bombarding city manager, mayor, all the council people with this information, you're going to create like a hell of a public record in case somebody wants to sue the city at some point because they know they are unsafe. Like they have the same data that we've looked at, they have it. So then it becomes like too much of a high risk situation. But that was something I
Yeah.
wanted to say like before I forgot.
Yeah, and so we have these kind of like these action-oriented solutions that you guys are bringing up, and before I get to like what other cities are doing or um, actually not doing with not having suicide lanes, Pam, just being a community builder yourself, what have you found is like the most effective way of getting the word out on education on really anything, but since we're here to talk about the suicide lanes, and what would you recommend to the audience today, just on that education piece and community building?
Definitely socials. I mean, that stirs things up. And we saw 5,000 signatures come in on Stacey's petition
Yeah.
very quickly. We also, though, still see people focused on 40% additional. Well, equate the 40%, it's 14 minutes, and I'm telling you, I don't care.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say is don't just focus on getting rid of the suicide lane. It's, what's after. I think we can present the problem, but we're also responsible for presenting a solution. And maybe that happens by knowing what some of those best practices are. Let's start throwing those things out there too.
Yeah.
So if it's not this, it's this. That's what I would say.
Yeah, like how could they be utilized? And I've heard all of you bring that up. And I mean, that's a question also, I'm curious from the audience too, like with removing the suicide lanes, and knowing that the reverse lane or the sevens have as many lanes as SR 51, what do folks think would be good use of the space? If we were to give up a one or two vehicle lanes along 7th Street or 7th Ave. We've heard in the chat earlier, bus rapid transit. I think personally that would be great on 7th Street, with it being a very straight shot up north to folks in Moon Valley and also Sunny Slope. I mean, but we've heard also bike lanes. Potentially could have both. BRT, bus rapid transit, and bike lanes. But what is the audience thinking? If you guys want to drop that in the chat. And we, Mark even brought up the medians where you still could turn. There's turn lanes, and tree shade because it's very wide and it attracts a lot of heat. We have these really wide roads. There's also traffic calming. Okay, Pam, you talked about other cities, just the lack of seeing something as asinine as reverse lanes in other cities. We do know Omaha, Nebraska, they still have reverse lane, suicide lanes on one major street with not nearly as many businesses and homes and schools along the way, but still it's one of the last cities that I'm aware of in the US where it's like a highway through a community, but the majority of, if not all, cities that had suicide lanes going through community areas, they're gone. And any existing suicide lanes are there being utilized how they should, like in an elevated highway, like we see in Nashville. It's an elevated highway. There's no businesses touching that, despite what we heard from a councilwoman trying to claim it's similar to Phoenix. I guess, for any of you guys, but I'll start with you, Pam. What, in your travels, when you're visually seeing how a city is built up and making it more multimodal friendly towards people inside and outside of a vehicle, what are you noticing are the stark contrasts with those cities versus, we'll just say, Phoenix and the suicide lanes?
Things that people would go, nope, that can't work here. And one is, we've gated off all of our alleys, yet in Italy, that's where everyone puts their bike. They ride their bikes through the alleys. They get places quicker. They park their bikes in the alleys. All of the businesses are accessible from the alley. So, I'm going, okay, activation is a key. We know that. We already know if we activate empty spaces then we're not going to have as many transient people living there, or whatever the issue may be. Activation is key, activating the alley. So, are we missing the boat by having gated them and looking at then having 7 lanes? How do we activate that? I love the green space idea. Love trees. I've seen that. Quebec is famous for taking some streets. They have movable concrete barriers, and some streets are people streets, like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then they change it over to another street, and that becomes a people street. So there's always places for pedestrians to go and walk. And they know this and they understand this. And, it slows everything down. Just like you were talking about bus rapid transit. So if there's that lane and I live in Moon Valley, then I don't need to drive my car anymore. If I can get on the bus and go directly downtown, hell, that's going to be faster than I could have got there by my car. But yeah, definitely one of the things, if I look at just Melrose, I look at Indian School to Camelback and go, okay, what could happen there? And, we've talked about, geez, all the things we thought of before, how it could be a pilot or incubate something. But I'm going, make it be people, nothing but people from Indian School to Camelback, all people street. You enter your neighborhood from Central or 15th Avenue. It's pretty much what we use now anyway. We can't really use the 7s unless we're going one direction or another. And I think that that's visionary. I think that that's leadership. I think that that's what the 5th largest city in the United States should be doing. Not being afraid to pilot things, they should be leading the way. And, those, a lot of the things that I see, and the other thing that I talked about with Detroit is, why do we have 300 parking meters that don't work, where they want to make money and expect you to go onto your own phone and try to find out how to pay? How ridiculous is this?
Right.
No enforcement, nobody fixes anything, but all we're about is trying to make money. So in trying to think about, we all know what the problem is, but what are the solutions? I think we have to look outside and see what other people are doing, especially in major cities. And if Detroit can do all this for free and increase their safety at the same time, there are lessons to be learned. Same way with like Madison, Wisconsin, best town in America. And you have to look at some of the things that they're doing. And a lot of the things that they have done is certain times of the year, they're doing people streets. They're making community things happen all over and engaging people. So culture shift again, however we can. But
yeah, and to credit to all of you, not giving up. And yeah, it gives us PTSD, but you guys have never given up. And I always appreciated that about leaders like y'all. And it is exhausting. We've heard it in everyone's voices here on this panel. It's very exhausting, especially when y'all all talk about other places and how they're doing it, and come back and bring those examples. And it often seems to go nowhere. But when we had that citizen showing that was huge in favor of getting rid of the reverse lanes back in May, everyone wearing their red shirts like we see Mark right now, I think that was very inspiring, and a lot of people got excited at that moment to keep momentum going. And maybe I think momentum arguably is kind of waned a little bit. I look at you guys and you keep going. And Mark, you don't give up. You act like the vote's still coming up tomorrow or something.
Yeah.
So,
well, our is literally, I can't. I mean, I have invested my life savings, millions of dollars into this property to help improve the quality of life for the neighborhood, for the greater Phoenix metro area, and hopefully for myself, which that has not done in the last 4 years yet, but maybe someday it will. So you can't give up, because for business owners, we pour our life savings in these places. When you talk about Denver, who is crying on the television after the crash by and it wasn't the police officer's fault, but it was a police vehicle that crashed into his building. This is a man I've never seen cry. And that tells you the emotion behind this. It is very emotional, whether you're a resident or a business owner. And the answer is always, well, more signs, more flashing lights. People don't read the sign on my door for the hours of operation, let alone when they're traveling 80 miles an hour down the road to see if I'm supposed to stop or not stop. Somebody said they're amazed by the number of people who don't stop at the hawk lights when they're flashing. I see it every day. I don't cross that hawk light until I watch every single lane stop, because I know that people they don't pay attention, and we can't just leave it up to people. We've got to do something about this from a city's perspective, and it's going to take stronger, more visionary leaders like Pam and Stacey have said. I hope it happens. We can't give up.
Absolutely. And I got a time check here too. We got 7 minutes. So yeah, whatever you guys want to share here in the last 2 minutes that we have.
One, I'm going to do a plug for the Street Project documentary. You can watch it on PBS. That has all the things that we're talking about. Phoenix is highly featured in it. One of those hawk lights on 7th Ave is highly featured in it pre-hawk light. It's part of the reason there's a hawk light there, honestly. So that's number one. Get out and speak at every city council meeting. Squeaky wheel. You can organize, you can do protests. It's important to keep press on it. Do bold, visual, audacious things in a safe manner, of course. Like, I would even say, if you're comfortable doing like guerrilla tactical urbanism, do some of that. I mean, it works. You could get in trouble, so be careful what you do and how you do it. But Nicole is the home base of my giant chicken cutout thing. So anyway, do that. I will say, like, since I have come here since October, I have filled up my gas tank 5 times since October, where I live right now. I hardly ever drive. I take the bus, I ride my bike, I take scooters, I walk miles every day. I almost cry still every time cars automatically yield to me. I will tell you that it took me 4 months to get high visibility crosswalks and stop bars at the intersection by my new house, which was like amazing. It's something that probably would have taken 4 years or never would have happened in Phoenix. So this is why I say, like, the political will piece is like just massive. There are also a ton of pedestrian and bicycle questions on the California driver's test. That's really where it starts. That's something that folks could advocate for, because like the driving culture in Phoenix is terrible. Like people do not yield to pedestrians. And when I took the California driver's license test, there's tons of questions about pedestrians, tons of questions about bicycles. There are real protected bike lanes here everywhere, which is like amazing to ride in. And yeah, I think that covers like my notes that I didn't want to forget, but like like really important to keep making lots of press. Cannot ignore big visual things, right?
Right.
Press can't ignore that. So the more press there is, the more pressure it's going to put on the elected officials. Also, pull public records requests, pull tons of public records requests. So those were my big ones.
Yeah, and for folks who haven't ever done a public records request, I've heard that AI is actually fairly helpful in helping you draft a public records request to submit to the city of Phoenix. So yeah, anymore you don't need to do a lot of homework to figure out how best write one. So like Stacey said, I highly recommend doing those because sometimes it could take a while. And Stacey knows from experience, unfortunately, it could take over a year. But it doesn't hurt to do them. It's fairly quick and easy, especially now with AI. And Stacey also talked about, speaking up at council meetings. For folks who don't know, at the end of every council meeting, there's a general public comment period where you can speak on anything you want. It doesn't have to be on the agenda. You could do it virtually or in person. And everyone on this panel has done it at some point or another, where from time to time we'll just kind of call in and share a concern, and it actually is heard. They're not allowed to comment on it and during general public comment, but it does go places. You just have to keep going. And then with our last 2 minutes, I'm going to quickly hand it over to you, Pam, and Mark for some last really quick comments, and then I'm going to close it out with a plug for UPP. So you go ahead, Mark. Or Pam.
Well, thank you for everyone. And I've been reading the comments in the chat as well. There's so many good things that are being said here, and a lot of things that there is a lot of misguided information out there. So it's really important to make sure you do get involved and really do the research yourself and ask, is this really true? Because that's what's happened when Stacey and Nicole, Pam talk about those studies. And Jeremy's been putting a lot of information in there about those. And now I understand that there's something going on with even that last study that will hopefully make the current study a little less likely just to agree with the city council. So the city council is there for us. And in all of those districts, we're always worried about District 4 because that's where, at least that's where I live, that's the Melrose District area, but it's those other districts that have the impact on that vote. So talking to those council people, going to their coffee chats, mentioning it all the time. And I agree, I'm gonna try to come up with some big, large damn animal or something that can go on top of the Royale that weighs or something. It says, get rid of these fucking lanes. But
you need to hold me accountable for using the chicken too. So Mark, I'm going to task you with that because I need to use Stacey's chicken.
Yeah, I left her a giant inflatable chicken. Also,
good idea. A giant good goat. That's good. Okay, I like it.
Pam, I need you to take photos because I need a witness.
Oh, you got it.
So Pam, any closing words with our last few seconds we got?
Just to say, honestly, when you say about giving up, I can't give up, but here's why. Because each time we approach this, it's all of these people who join in. Why would you give up? How could you give up when we have these type of people who are interested and involved and could potentially be active and are active? So I like Mark, I'm just thrilled about everybody who was here and all the great questions. So.
Thank you guys again. And we're right at 7 o'clock. And for folks who don't know, Urban Phoenix Project is a 501c3. So if you could please donate today, that helps our volunteer run only organization do a lot. We are able to stretch our money. All the events you see, the funding comes out of our pockets primarily, but also from donors like yourself. And with that, we're going to keep these going, but please, heed the advice from this panel today. It keeps me motivated, and thank y'all so much for all the engagement in the chat. It was really exciting to read it. I wish I could have responded to everybody there, but once again, please keep coming back, and we'll get rid of these reverse